Good morning, everyone. This is Patrick Russell, class of '89 and a Blue Jay. This is episode 14 of the We Want More Vodcast.
Winds up, takes another one for Hopkins.
The test was just called it right in there. Shot the goal right out front. The Blue Jays.
Does not wear a brace. Never has shown any adverse effects. Harrison with it. Big shot. Scores! Kyle Harrison goes high. That's it. It's over. Johns Hopkins has won its ninth national championship.
Pete, good morning. Today is Tuesday. Happy Tuesday to you.
Good morning. Happy Tuesday to you as well.
It's playoff week. NCAA Playoffs. We are seeded third. Congratulations on that. Before we get into the playoffs, let's sort of go back. We haven't been on air for 10, 11 days. Let's go back to the Big Ten tournament. Quickly, just your summary of what transpired at Ohio State versus Michigan.
Sure. Yeah, we came out pretty fast. Executed well early. Scored a goal at the beginning of the second quarter to go up 6-1, and it just seemed like we hit a pause button from there. Went a little flat in a lot of areas. Struggled to keep the lead that we had. It evaporated pretty quickly, and then just kind of fighting an uphill battle against ourselves most of the game. But I would give Michigan a lot of credit. They played their butts off. They did a great job. Obviously went out and executed the next game as well and got into the tournament. There was a desperation in the way that they were playing that was hard for us to match that intensity. And we learned from it. I thought it was reminiscent of some other things that we struggled at this year. But, I think more than anything, guys got an opportunity to play in a challenging situation. We got exposed in some ways and utilized that to learn from it to help propel us forward. So, got back at it the other day. As soon as we got home, guys wanted to get back out on the field pretty quickly. And we did that with a Sunday night practice before the selection show. And, now we're into the next week.
Good. Pete, without opening up Pandora's box of everything, you say you'll learn from it. Give us one or two, what are one or two things that you learned?
There's a couple examples in there, like clearing after a long possession or when you're tired. And I think we've seen this before, but you just got to find your spots. You got to get there with some urgency, and the clear gets a lot easier. And I think sometimes when you're tired, your discipline falls a little bit. The urgency certainly does. Your voice goes, and we were a little hesitant, maybe even casual at times, getting to the right spots, thinking we could just run it over. And the other team's playing really hard and moving a little bit quicker than us. And there comes a failed clear from just not being in the right spots at the right time. And I think that's one of those things just with urgency, we solve. I think there was a couple other on the offensive end where we're putting a lot of pressure on the ball carrier to make a play, to initiate some offense, to draw a slide, get to the goal, whatever. I don't think we're moving with enough urgency off the ball. And I think in those situations, you double the load on the guy with the ball because you're not stressing the defense without it. And, it's always a conversation. It's something that we talk about from the fall all the way through the year is how hard you play in this situation, how you space it, where you go, and how you time it. But, in that one where it looked like we got a little flat, like you stopped seeing the movement off ball more than you stopped seeing the urgency with the guy that's dodging. And that was one that was really indicative of our mental state, more than our ability to actually beat somebody.
Great. I appreciate the answer because it's just good insight for our alums and fans as we're watching. What are those things that we do learn from it, and it makes sense what you said, because I remember one sequence where I felt like we failed clear, so we're playing defense for like 2.5, 3 minutes. Even the announcers know we're going to tire out eventually. As much as we're playing great defense, eventually it's going to break. So getting those clears, a sense of urgency in those clears does make sense. I'm curious, one last question about this game. Sure. Do we tweak and adjust, or do we stay the course? I mean, are there times where we're like, we need to change things around, or is it, look, let's just execute the way we know how to execute and do it better and do it more efficiently?
I mean, it's a really good question, and it's a balancing point in a lot of ways, because there are some real values to stay in the course and just finding a way to execute better with what you're doing. It's not always a drastic change, a strategic change, like let's stop going from behind, let's start going from the wings. Sometimes you're going from behind, but you're not in the right spots, or the timing's off, or you had the wrong matchup, or if you go back to it and you reset properly, then you can get a different look off of it. There are times where it's just not generating anything, and we need to go to something else. And I think Coach does a good job of trying to change up those sets and change up the looks. But I would completely understand that from a viewing perspective. There are times where it looks like we're going back to the same thing, and sometimes that's true, and sometimes we just need to get better at what we're doing before we make that switch. Before you really have reason to make the next move. If you're not moving with urgency off the ball, or if you're not you're not handling it well, you're not attacking the right way, sometimes you switch the formation and you attack from a different side, and all it does is just move the problem to a different area. So, you really want to look at the root cause of it before you start, just making different calls because you wanted to see something different.
Yeah, understood. Well, look, that's behind us. And, we came out of a very strong season, undefeated in the Big Ten. The tournaments are the tournaments. You don't have to look at the Big Ten to realize this is what happens. I mean, look at our next opponent. No one really thought that Lehigh would be where they are right now. And so here we go. And, all those tournaments are great, men's and women's. There are upsets. It's a compact couple of days that you play back to back or every other day. So here we are. We're back into the NCAAs like last year. This is great. And speaking of Lehigh, that's our opponent. We'll play on May 12th. Against the Mountain Hawks. That's a Sunday, not a Saturday. May 12th at noon. It'll be at home field. As you all saw, the first 8 seeds get a home field advantage. We'll be playing the Lehigh Mountain Hawks on Sunday, May 12th. A lot of cool things here about this opponent, if I may, since there's a little bit of history here. Obviously, our offensive coordinator, John Crawley, came from Lehigh, where he was the offensive coordinator. And my understanding is that Cornell, you coached, Coach Lichardi was actually one of your players.
Yep, and he's the offensive coordinator there now. So he's young and doing a good job. They got a good group going on.
So there's a nice connection there. And one last thing, Lehigh was a power. We talk about the history of Johns Hopkins lacrosse in 1883. Lehigh formed their program in 1885. And in those late 1800s, all the way through the 1930s, Lehigh won 11 national titles. One school had 2 more national titles. It was Hopkins. And you're talking about 2 historic universities, heavy in engineering and the sciences. There were some real battles in the early 1900s with Lehigh. So I just think that's a cool context there for people to know.
Yeah,
but we have not played Lehigh since 1925. So this will be the first time we've seen them in all those years.
Yeah, Ernie said that yesterday. It's 99 years since we've played Lehigh. Yeah.
And it's funny, too, because you think about back in those days, there's a little bit of proximity and distance. Obviously, Bethlehem's not that far from Baltimore. But, Coach, what are you seeing? What are you seeing in this game, and what are you seeing in Lehigh?
Lehigh's had a pretty good identity for a while. Obviously, they had a coaching change this past year, but their head coach has been there for a bunch of years. He's recruited these guys, and I think he knows it, pretty well. It's a strong group. They're connected well. They play a tough version of the game. They really, trust their system. They trust each other. They like to get physical. They like to challenge you. They're not afraid. They have really never in my career playing against Lehigh wavered in that identity. They come out with confidence, with a grit. It may be vocal. You may hear some of those things, but they'll also let you know about it after they make a play too. I think to their credit though, like they buy into their system, they believe in who they are, and they play to their strengths very well. So it'll be a challenge. There's some strategic things here and there that we got to be aware of, but for the most part, it's going to be a challenge to match that intensity right out of the gates too, because they always bring it. They always have.
Yeah. We talk about this being a young man's game. Coach Scudder, who is an alum of Lehigh, which is a nice thing. He's an alum, but he's been there a while, although he's young. I mean, he pretty much has been coaching there since he graduated. So, they have a young staff, young coach. We have Scott Cole and Andrew Kelly on offense. They look like they're hungry, gritty guys.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, they're good. They're good, strong Dodgers. Move the ball well. They attack the net. Scott Cole is a really impressive attackman for sure. That'll be a tough matchup. Coach Crawley said that from the first time he got here, that the attackman that he was coaching over there was really good, and now you're watching him develop into a senior leader and really really fine player. So he'll be a challenge for sure.
And then we have Nick Bakura in goal, and their face-off man is Sean Dow. Obviously, we should take advantage of controlling face-offs like any opponent.
Yeah, if we can, for sure. I think that's it's going to be a good matchup. They've been pretty successful. They're doing well there. They had a really really prolific faceoff guy for a long time who graduated and is on into the professional level. And I think this guy that's there now worked with him, learned a lot from him as his backup, and really is stepping into his own right now. So he's been performing pretty well. We're going to have to attack the whistle the right way and, see if we can get those possessions out. But, they're not going to be easy for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we look forward to it. It's Sunday, May 12th. Coach, this is an exciting time for Johns Hopkins. And I know you know this. It's an expected time. It's playoffs, NCAAs. We get a home game to start off. Just your thoughts about being in the NCAA tournament again in back-to-back years.
It's really just an exciting time for us right now, and I'm not really drawing any correlation to before or after this. These guys earned an opportunity to host a playoff game, which is a big deal. It's not an easy thing to do or an easy one to come by. But as we talked about this week, and even just yesterday in our meeting before we got going, like, that's all behind us. Everything else is behind us. Like, we are who we are right now. There's 17 teams playing lacrosse. Every single one of them has an opportunity to compete and win on any day, and the loser goes home. So we're all in the same place. We're all like seedings and rankings. Like, that's just to get the field set and off and running. But after that, nobody cares who you are. Nobody cares what you're ranked or how good you're supposed to be or who beat who when. Everybody wants to win because they want another week together, and that's our opportunity to go out there and prove that we deserve it. So I think the excitement has been clear from the guys. The energy, get a little bit of a rebirth, so to speak, with the playoffs. That you're starting a second season, and it's kind of a clean slate. We wiped the goals board off downstairs and took all the week by week statistics and zeroed them out, and we get a chance to start fresh.
And you held a light practice on Sunday when you got back from the Big Ten tournament. So, right, it's kind of like you're almost like, it's almost like runners who do a cool down. You just ran a race, but you still have to jog to cool down. And, two last questions, like, what was the mindset on Sunday? Like, what was the vibe on the field Sunday as you're rolling the balls out on Homewood Field, putting that in the, putting that behind you and focus on the NCAAs? One or two words to describe the mindset.
Well, I'll give you a little bit more than that. I don't know exactly because we weren't allowed there. The players asked to do it on their own, and when we were talking with the captains about our Sunday plan for getting the guys here and getting a workout and watching the film, and then getting ready for the selection show, have a dinner together, things like that, they requested that they have a players only practice, and I we'll always defer to that if that's something that they're interested in. Doesn't mean that we take our hands off and just let them go do whatever, but in the conversation with the captains and what they felt needed to be done and how it needed to be a little bit different, I thought that they hit the nail on the head. And so as coaches, we help them draw up a plan, pick the lineups for who needs to go where, and then let them go out and do it. They got whistles, they ran the clock, and they got after it. And I thought it was a really good version for even for us as coaches to see from a different perspective, but for those guys to get. When we talked yesterday and I asked how practice was, their immediate reaction was it was awesome. It was great. It was intense, competitive, a lot of energy. And that was before we even had an opponent, defined from the selection committee. So we were just going out there to compete. And if that's the type of reaction that they had from that day, I think that tells you a lot. That it doesn't need to be about who's on the board and who's next, team we're aiming for. Well,
Pete, I really appreciate that answer because, this is, gives us a little bit more insight. This is the content we're looking for in this podcast of, hey, this is something we didn't know. They ran a players only practice.
Mm-hmm.
I recall back in the day, very few times, but when we would scrimmage, Coach Zim would actually sit up in the box. He was not out on the field coaching. He wanted a different perspective of watching his team go at it. And so I kind of respect that opportunity that the players put in front of them on Sunday when he got back.
Yeah, they take an ownership of it too. I
Yeah.
think that's as big of a piece as you'll ever get is, when your players want to take ownership and they want to track the accountability themselves, they want to demand. I mean, they would know if we were going to have a practice on Sunday night, what we would be saying to them in any specific scenario drill. They've heard it a million times over, but when they take ownership of it, I think it brings it to a different level. So I was excited about it.
Well, good. Again, we look forward to this game. By the way, the historical record with Lehigh and Johns Hopkins is 24-11 in favor of Johns Hopkins. Again, the last time we played them was 1925. This is actually an interesting game, and we all look forward to it. So, Pete, you're busy. We're going to get into the fun stuff as we always do. But before I do that, I forgot to mention, I always do this, I forget, but this is episode 14, so we have a lot of famous 14s here. I want to give a shout out to my favorite 14, which is my teammate, Joe Resin Pollock, the pride of Farmingdale, Jim Safuto, who won 3 national championships, pride of Elmont, Brennan Cody, one of our captains and a great player from the 90s, who, rest in peace, passed away a few years ago. We have a Yorktown Husker from the late 60s, early 70s, Robert Kelly, who was number 14. And, we've always had a nice little Yorktown to Hopkins pipeline. George Johnson, the pride of Bethpage, who played for Coach Chick and Coach Scott. Hunter Rogers, one of our recent grads, who is a Brophy prep grad from Phoenix, right? How the game has grown. And of course, a shout out to your current player, Andrew Bigelow, who's a number 14. So I forgot to do that. Wanted to give those guys a shout out.
You can also add
questions.
A fellow Loyola Don for you, Cole Williams, just a recent grad.
That's right. I forgot about Cole Williams.
He would tell me if I forgot his name.
And then Matty O'Keefe took his number, I think, when he finished, who's also a Don.
Oh, okay.
Matt O'Toole. Anyway. All right, so here are 3 questions for you, and we'll finish this up. Your mom is one of the biggest fans, correct?
Yeah, my mom loved it.
All right. Your mom needs a ride. She needs to come to the Lehigh game. And I mean, obviously, you know what I'm saying. Like, a player's got to play, but you need to pick one player who's going to get in a car, pick up your mom and bring her to the game, and also entertain your mom. Would be a good conversationalist with your mom. Who's the player who would pick up your mom and bring her to a game?
Hunter Juronsky would do a really good job. He's very talkative and would definitely entertain. I'm trying to think of a younger guy that would jump up there and there's a lot of good ones, but I'll say Charlie Eiler. I bet you Charlie Eiler would represent well.
Right.
Very nice young man.
What we're talking about is after the game, your mother will come up to you and say, that was a nice young man that picked me up.
Yeah. Really liked him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay. The old guys, let's just say 60s, 1960s, mid 70s, that era. Those guys are getting together for a dinner and they want one of the players to come and chat with them, just to hang out with them at dinner. What guy would be good hanging out with the old dudes to talk Hopkins lacrosse?
Brett Martin.
Okay.
Brett Martin would be really great. I don't know. There's a lot of those guys. I'm trying to pick an exciting one so that you would like.
Right. Yeah.
Brett would be great. I think he would really resonate with those guys entirely. And then I'm trying to think of a younger guy.
Yeah.
I might say Luke Martin as well. You could get the Martin brothers.
Sure.
They get over and talk to you about what we're doing and how it's going.
To my fault, it's kind of a similar question, but like those three championship 78, 79, 80 guys, like they all get together in Rehoboth Beach. Who's the one guy that would sit? Who would sit in a circle on the beach with 20 of those knuckleheads? Right.
Yeah, Brett would kill it. Scott Smith would kill it there as well. Those guys would. The alums would enjoy
Okay.
that conversation. Those guys would do a great job.
Okay. Then I have two quick ones.
Sure.
I'm sorry if I'm aging myself, but do we still recruit in the sense of I visit a recruit's home?
Sure.
Okay.
Of course.
What's the best? Who's made the best meal?
Who's
What
made the
parent
best meal?
What parent in your experience has made the best meal? And if it's not your answer, like maybe Coach K or Coach Crawley mentioned somebody.
Yeah. Well, I could tell you there's a couple of the guys on this current team with a couple classes. Well, we weren't able to. We were all virtual, like through the pandemic and stuff like that. Basically the juniors and sophomores, we didn't really get a chance to visit. We went somewhere this past fall and we got these really great like vegan muffins. Coach K is a health nut, and so Jameson was on the kick with he's eating like vegetarian and vegan, and so she made some like cranberry vegan muffins. It was actually pretty good. I was kind of amazed.
That's awesome.
I don't even remember what they were called, but it's always interesting when you're sitting down at the table, and it was Crawley and myself and Jameson, and she's like, "Yeah, I made some vegan muffins." I was like, "No, I don't know about it," but I ended up caving and I tried them. They were pretty good.
See? And that's more content we want too. That Coach K likes vegan muffins, so that's good stuff.
I don't know if it's entirely, but he eats very well. He exercises like crazy. He's a maniac, but yeah, it's a little more intense than I can handle. But I don't know if he's as strict as he was at the time.
Right.
But,
For my era, it was always ziti on Long Island. The moms. The moms and dads who made ziti for Coach Zim.
Oh, I'll give you a really good one. When I went to the island, I went to visit PJ Verdi's Chaminade goalie, and his mom made a French toast casserole thing for breakfast. That was outstanding.
Awesome.
I've never had one of those, and like immediately I was like, and she'd send me out the door with extra bagels too. So
that's awesome.
She didn't let me leave without extra bagels. Yeah, it was great.
All right, this is my last question. Is there a chant? One word, two words, like what is the most commonly used chant for the huddle? I saw on Instagram the team, I think maybe say family before they went to do the seating watch, the pairing watch.
Mm-hmm.
Is there usually a set chant with the players as they break
together? Together's probably the most consistent one. Family sometimes. A lot of the defensive theme that's caught on throughout the whole team. Which is now on the shooting shirts, is just more. They kind of yell that a lot. I think it comes with like embracing the challenge, attacking, whatever you get. Sometimes you hit a struggle point where, things didn't go well. You get another foul, you're back on defense again, or, it just seems like it kind of piles on you every once in a while. And I think Coach K initiated that response to it by just asking for more and knowing that we can handle more. And I think it's all part of the theme right now where the guys are at. Just they love the challenge. They love doing it together, and looking for more.
All right, Pete. I know you're busy, and I thank you always for the time. I know a lot of our alums love this podcast stuff, and hopefully some of our other fans as well. Thank you for your time. Good luck against Lehigh. Again, the game is Sunday at noon at Homewood Field. It'll be on ESPNU. Like those who love basketball March Madness, this is lacrosse's version of May Madness. It's back-to-back games, and we love it, and we wish the Jays a lot of luck.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Guys are excited.
All right.
See you
Go
Saturday.
Jays.
Go
Thanks,
Jays. All right, see ya.